listen to the wind of my soul. Where I'll end up, well, I think only God really knows. Hey friends, what's going on? David Potts here with Song Notes, and excited today to show you how to play The Wind by Cat Stevens. So this one came in from Nat. Nat, thank you very much for your support on Patreon. It means so much to me, and I hope this lesson is helpful for you. So if you want to skip ahead, here's what I'm going to cover in this lesson. I'll talk about the chords you're going to need. I'll go through the intro. I'll talk about the fingerstyle that happens in the verse of this song. Then I'll talk about the chorus section, which is a bit more strummy, though. I'll show you a fingerstyle way to do that, too. So lots of good stuff to come here. I got to say that Cat Stevens is one of my original favorite guitar artists, and I like to try to learn a lot of his songs back when I was starting out. Some of them I was able to. Other ones, like this one, I couldn't really get a hang of at the time. But now, many years later, I've been able to sort of satisfyingly learn it. And I'm excited to pass that on to you. So I hope you find this enjoyable. Remember that you can find a song note sheet for this lesson with all the notes I've written up over at playsongnotes.com. It's a great way to sort of follow along outside and after you're watching this video, and just keep it around as you're playing along in your songbook forever going forward. Okay, so let's get to this lesson. Thanks for all the support I'm getting from y'all on Patreon. Really appreciate it. Likewise, those of you who are tipping me through the tip jar on my website is really appreciated as well, and I hope these lessons continue to be helpful for you. So let's get into this one and learn The Wind by Cat Stevens. Okay, so first up, let's do a review of the chords we're going to need for this entire song. This is going to cover the intro chords, the verse chords, and the chorus chords. Now, some of these will be finger picking, and the chorus will be a bit more strummy, perhaps, but the chord shapes are going to be something you'll need to know for all this stuff. So let's look at these. Here's what they look like, basically. So the first one is a D chord, okay, D major, common chord here. This song is in the key of D, so this is usually your starting point and your end point, right? So that's a D. A variation of the D you're going to need is what I'm calling a D add 5, which is basically a D shape as you add here, but you want to add your pinky up to the 3rd fret of the high E string, okay? So it turns this into this. Okay, this is kind of a stretch, and if you can't do it, you can still pull this song off. It's really just that distinctive intro part. Okay, that's really where the D5 is used primarily. So it's basically, you know, stretch your pinky out, keep your ring finger there if you can, or your middle finger on the 2nd fret, but add your pinky to that 5th fret. And again, this is a stretch, so if you can't do it, don't feel bad about yourself, because you can still pull the song off. You'll also need a G chord, okay? So I have the regular G, as shown here, just a 6th string. You know, you can add your ring finger if you want. That's up to you. The variation you'll need, though, in a lot of the finger picking parts is this G add 6, where you're going to leave the high E string, you're going to take a finger off that 3rd fret. Okay, so 3rd fret on the low E string, and if you're finger picking, you'll just be playing the thinnest 3 or 4 strings. Okay, so it's a G add 6 compared to this, a regular G. Okay, G add 6 is this. So that's what you're going to need for the G chord. And then we're going to have an A, regular A major, okay? You also will want to get good with the A7. You're just taking your finger off the 3rd string. So it's open, 2nd, open, 2nd, open. And then there is sometimes an A7 sus4. It's not shown here, but basically that's just going to be an A7. Put your pinky down on the 2nd string on the 3rd fret. Okay, so open, 2nd, open, 3rd, open. That's A7 sus4, and this is A7. Okay, then there's an E minor. You're going to need that in the chorus of the song, okay? So these are the chords. Just understand that this is how you play them. Come back to this if you need to review that. But I want to set that sort of foundation before we move into learning how to play this stuff. And next, let's look at the intro. So for the intro of this song, here's the 2 figures we're going to learn for this, right? Figure 1, figure 2. The first figure, let's start with that one. It's basically going to be a D add 5 chord, okay? That's all we're going to do with our left hand. That's nice. Keep this still. Now for our right hand, what we're going to need to do here is basically, we're going to repeat this pattern where we're going to pinch the 4th string and the 2nd string with our right thumb and right middle finger. Okay, we're going to pinch those on the 1 count, and on the 1 and count, we're going to play the 3rd string on the 2nd fret. Okay, so if you just repeat those 2 notes, those 2 sort of counts, you do the pinch, and then you go to your index finger with your right hand, 3rd fret. And I recommend just getting comfortable with this, right? Because the next thing we're going to add is adding our pinky up on this 3rd fret high E string. And then we're going to come back to the 2nd fret on the 3rd string by itself. So the first 4 counts, if you look at the tab, are this. Okay? And if we repeat that, that's all this rhythm figure is. Okay? So you want to have a nice solid, unwavering chord position with your left hand. You want to make sure that your fingers are sort of pressing down firmly but not muffling the other strings, okay? If you hear that, kind of like unclean sound, that means that you're either not pushing down cleanly enough, or it means your fingers are sort of inadvertently draping and touching another string. You want to avoid that if you can, okay? So first get all the strings to sound cleanly, and then do this finger picking pattern. And try to do it consistent rhythm. And that's one thing that defines this song in general, is there's a real, it's like a delicate constraint. It's never getting too loud, but you can sort of hear these nice little finger picking grooves sort of just sounding very consistent in their sort of softness. And it's hard to do, for sure. It's easier to play loud and sloppy, but playing soft and constrained is tougher. But it makes this song as great as it is when you execute it properly. So this is the first rhythm figure. In the intro, we're going to repeat this 4 times in this song. Okay? So that's the first one. Now, let's look at rhythm figure number 2 here. This one is tricky, and this is really the main spirit of the song, I think, melodically, as far as the riffs go. In this one, what we're going to be doing is, it's 2 measures. And first, big picture, before you get into the finger picking nuances, look at the chords that are going to be used here, right? It's D for 4 counts, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, G add 6, A7 to D, 2, 3, 4, G add 6, A7, D, okay? If nothing else, start with that and just sort of get used to that sort of foundation. You'll notice that the A7 is really an A7 sus4, but you can sort of figure that out later or get to that later. Just D, 2, 3, 4 to G, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4 to G, and A7 and D, okay? That's the sort of foundation. Now let's add some stuff on top of that. For the D, the first half of the measure, basically, the first half of the D measure is the same finger picking pattern with your right hand that you had in figure 1, where it's basically going to be a pinch on the 1 count, and then the 1 and the 2 and count are going to be the 3rd string by itself. And the 2 count will be the 1st string by itself. We're not going to be on a D add 5 here, the regular D. So this is the first 4 plucks of the D chord in the 2nd figure. Get comfortable with this, right? Now, the 3 and 4 end part, this is where it gets tricky. So that's basically the last 4 plucks of this first measure here. What we're going to do is basically put our pinky down on the 3rd fret of the high E string and pluck the 4th string and the 1st string together. And then the next count is going to be just the 2nd fret on the high E string, and then the next count will be the open E string, and then the final count will be the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, which our ring finger is already there, okay? So do it slow at first by itself. Get used to doing this. Okay? And I'm sort of plucking all those. I'll explain that sort of sideways parentheses thing you see at the top there in a minute. But basically, if you combine the first 2 measures slowly, the first full measure, I mean, the first 4 counts. Okay? We're going to do that over and over again. Get comfortable with that. Go as slow as you need to. Try to keep a consistent rhythm. Now, to add a little bit of complexity here, but this sounds smoother if you can do it, is for the transition between the 3rd fret and the 2nd fret on the high E string, we want to do a pull-off if we can. Where basically you're doing that pluck on the pinch on the 4th and 1st string, but when you pull your pinky off, you're sort of pulling it off. I kind of do it downward, and I'm sort of getting like it to sound the 2nd fret note by virtue of me pulling it off. Okay? So it's one pluck with my right hand, but two sounds from the guitar. Okay, it's from 3rd to 2nd fret. So that's basically the goal. Now, this is something that is a difficult technique. I'm still half proficient at it. I kind of have to just practice it over and over again, but the goal is to do this. Okay? What that does is it makes it a smoother transition from that 3rd fret to 2nd fret, and it sounds a bit less choppy because you want this to sound really smooth and elegant. Okay, and now the second measure of the intro, figure 2 here, is basically the G add 6. So we're going to be plucking the 3rd fret of the low E string, and then the first 2 strings open, and I'm plucking them with my middle and ring fingers on my right hand. Okay, that's the first count, and then on the 2 and count, we're going to put our ring finger down on the 3rd fret 2nd string, and then go up to the 1st fret open. So, okay? So 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and then we're gonna go to the A7 to keep our ring finger there and pluck the 5th, 2nd, and 3rd string. Then we're gonna put our middle finger down on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string and then hammer on from the 2nd to 3rd fret on the 2nd string. Okay, so that last part again, it's so with the right hand, the idea is you want to use your ring finger. I use my ring finger on the 1st string, middle finger on the 2nd string, index finger on the 3rd string. That's always true no matter what chord I'm playing. Thumb is either on the 6th string or 5th string, depending on the chord. And then, so. Okay, so that's figure 2. It's definitely tricky, but again, you get that down, and that's, I think, the hardest part of the song is getting that to be smooth. So you're going to play that twice, and then you'll be done the intro, and you go into the verse of the song. Okay, so now let's look at the verse here. The verse is going to be this 4-measure sequence repeating. Now, the good news is you've learned the hardest parts of this, I think. Really, the second 2 measures are figure 2 from the intro. They're the same thing. The only new thing here is this first 2 measures, which I think is a lot more straightforward. It's going to look like this. So again, the idea here is your right thumb is going to be on the 4th, 5th, or 6th string, depending on the chord. And your index will be on the 3rd string, middle on the 2nd, ring on the 1st. Okay? And we're going to use this pattern. We're going to pluck the bass note of the chord, do the 3rd string by itself, and then pinch the 1st and 2nd string. And then go back to the 3rd string. Okay? So for the D chord, that would be this. Let's repeat that for a bit, okay? This is the first measure. You just do the D chord twice. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we're going to go to the G add 6 and do that once. And then the A7. Okay, so if we just repeated the first 2 measures over and over again, it would be this. E7 again, and 2 and 3 and 4 and G, A7, right? Get used to repeating that. And you could play the whole verse like this and not even worry about the tough intro figure, right? I listen to the wind of my soul. Will I end up, will I think? I messed up, only God really knows. Okay, that's the basic idea. And then the second half of the verse, and this is going to be the part after you just finish singing, you know. I listen to the wind of my soul. It's what we just learned in the intro figure 2. So the verse is going to do this whole sequence twice. Now the lyric's going to change. So again, I'll play through the first verse using this, and it's going to go like this. I listen to the wind of my soul. Well, I'll end up where I think only God really knows. Okay, that's it for the verse. The one thing I'll say here, and the tab doesn't note this, but the second time you do the verse, the final hammer on, you're not going to go from 2 to 3, you're going to go from 2 to 0, right? 2 and then pull off and get an open second string. And that's going to transition into the chorus, okay? So let's look at the chorus now. Now the chorus, the good thing about this is he does it strumming on the album, right? And the way he does the strumming is with fingerstyle. If you have a D chord, he does on the 1 count, he does the bass note, and then up, down, up. So this is a D chord, just for example. Down, up, 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 down, up. And for the G, that would be this. Down, up, 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 down, up. So on the 1 count, I'm doing the thumb on the bass note, and then up, down, up. A light brush with my index finger. The A, down, up, 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 down, up. Okay? Now that's doing the approach where on the 1 count, you get the bass note. You could just do all just strict strumming and don't worry about the bass notes, right? Down, up, 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 down, up. Now in my figure here, I have the down strums on the 1 count and the 3 count. They're a bit more like visually emphasized. That's to kind of do a little emphasis if you want to. You could do a bass note emphasis. Okay, or you could just do a heavier down strum. Or you could ignore that and just do down, up, 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 down, up. The key with this song, I think, is getting a nice just brush, a brush of the strings. It's not like you're picking very heavily with this one. You want to be light, okay? So the chorus, here's what we have. We're going to be on G for 2 counts, to A for 2 counts, and then G, A, D. Okay, so I sat up on the setting sun, but never, 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 I never wanted what it was, like never, 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 never. Okay? After the chorus, we're going to go back to that main riff, the D riff. But let's look at this again. So it's G, 2, and A, G, A, D. E minor to G, E minor to G, A, G, to A, to G, A, D, E minor to G, to A, and to E. Okay? Now, the one thing I'll say here that's kind of tricky is the first line of the chorus. Notice how that A, on the final measure, you have 1 count of A on the 5 count. It's really weird. It's basically... Hey friends, what's going up? New camera angle here because the battery died and I wanted to finish this lesson, right? So I was talking about the A at the end of the first line of the chorus. And while I'm calling this out, is you might look at this and think, this is weird that there is a 5 count measure in a song that otherwise is full of 4 count measures, right? This is intentional. And if you listen to the Cat Stevens song, The Wind, and you sort of count along as you're strumming through the chorus, you will hear this. Now, why this is happening? I think it's as simple as he's ending that first line with a G, right? You're going from E minor to G a few times. And then he's gonna start the second line with a G as well. And the A just gives you a quick palate cleanser between those 2 Gs. I think that's all it is, really. But this happens from time to time in music. Folks will change the time signature just for 1 measure or 2 sometimes. And you'll also notice that at the very end of the chorus, there's a measure of A that is 2 counts long, right? So just calling that out as well. And for you nitpickers amongst ye, you will notice in the real song, I think the final measure of the chorus is actually going from an A to a G. It's 1 count on the A, 1 count on the G, and then you go to the main intro riff after the chorus, right? So I wanted to clear that up. And the other thing about the chorus is if you're having trouble with the strumming, right? You know, I have the strumming pattern here. Right, if you're having trouble doing this, because I find it tough strumming with my fingers in the way Cat Stevens does. He gets such a clean sound with his strum, and it helps that he's recording this in the studio and he has great musicians with him, right? What you can do is just finger pick this chorus. And the way I do that is I go back to the verse, right? And I look at this first rhythm figure here with the first two measures where I'm basically doing this pattern. If I just take the D chord, right? All this is the bass note of whatever chord I'm in. In this case, it's the 4th string for the D. Then I'm doing 3rd string, and then 2nd and 1st together, and then back to 3rd. And I repeat that, right? And you could do this for any chord, right? I could do it for the G. I'll do that next. I'll do a regular G here. 6th string, 3rd string, 2nd and 1st string, 3rd string, right? And you could do it for the A. And next I'm going to go E minor. So in all these cases, my right index, middle, and ring fingers are playing the thinnest 3 strings. That's never changing. All that's changing is my thumb is playing the bass note, the bass string of whatever chord I'm in. So you could do this for the entire chorus. I'll do a quick playthrough of that, right? So, I sat upon the setting sun, but never, 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 I never wanted water once, not never, never, never. Okay, so you get the idea there. The only time you would deviate from that finger picking pattern in the chorus is when you're doing these consecutive down strums in a row. It happens in the 2nd measure of the 1st line and the 2nd line in the chorus, right? So, I never wanted water once. I just did a quick, just a thumb down strum of everything, right? Or you could just play the bass note of that chord. I never wanted water once. Okay, so this is a handy way to do it as well. That way you're not having to worry about strumming at all. And I find that's a bit helpful to sort of minimize the number of things you need to do when you're playing this song. Okay, so that's going to be it for this lesson. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful for you. And please send me more Cat Stevens requests because, again, he was one of my favorite guitarists when I was first starting out. Tried learning a bunch of his songs. I could still play a few. Father and Son is one I need to do. That's one of my all-time favorite songs. That was a huge challenge for me when I was first learning guitar, was getting that Father and Son strum, but being able to sing at the same time. I'd love to show you that. I'd love to show you Wild World. I'd love to show you Peace Train. I think the finger picking one I never really learned properly was If I Laugh. I think that's like the most beautiful of his finger picking songs. There's so many other good ones. So I'm sure I'll do more. Let me know which ones you want to hear. But this has been David Potts. Thanks all for watching. Thanks to all of you who are supporting me on Patreon. It means so much to me. These lessons are going to keep on coming. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you want to hear. And I'm going to leave you at that. So take care, my friends. Have a good one. And wherever you are, bye-bye.